Welcome to the Alternate Sports Planet, where an alternate decision creates an alternate reality. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to this channel to take a detailed look, season by season, on how players' legacies and teams' fortunes could have been different up to the present day. And this is my take on the universe of the ultimate what if and what could have been. So without further ado, let's get into it. In this journey, we go to a planet in which Steph Curry was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves with the number 6 overall pick in the 2009 draft instead of by the Golden State Warriors 1 pick later. It's the 2009 draft, and the biggest intrigue of the night, where Steph Curry will be drafted. Even though everyone saw the dazzling display of long-range shooting throughout his college career, leading the nation in scoring and carrying small college Davidson to the Elite Eight in the tournament, scouts still had major questions about his prospects in the league. Many felt he was too small as a shooting guard and would have to learn to be a good point guard and would have trouble defending at the pro level. As the draft started, the first 4 picks will go pretty much as expected. The Minnesota Timberwolves are on the clock with the next 2 picks. With the 5th pick, they take flashy Spanish point guard Ricky Rubio. Although Minnesota regards him as the point guard of the future, they would soon learn that they would be unable to buy him out of his current contract with his pro team in Europe, making him unavailable for at least a year. So with the 6th pick, the Timberwolves select Stephen Curry. Minnesota was unsure about Curry like most teams, but they decided to take a chance, feeling that he could develop into some type of role until Rubio was ready to come over. Minnesota, a couple years removed from the Kevin Garnett era, was still a young team in rebuilding mode and would still struggle to get wins as expected. But with Steph Curry solely running point, he would take advantage of his opportunities to showcase he was a little bit better than what they thought. With last year's 5th overall pick Kevin Love returning from a broken hand and leading scorer Al Jefferson, they showed flashes of a team with potential. Curry displayed the ability to be an effective distributor and showed off his efficient deep ball range. He started every game he played, averaging 16 points a game and 5 assists per game, and finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting to Sacramento's Tyreke Evans. However, Minnesota would only finish the season with a 23-55 record and go into the offseason hoping to continue rebuilding with some solid pieces in place. The LA Lakers would win back-to-back titles, defeating the Boston Celtics in 7 games. Minnesota will make a few tweaks to the roster, trading away Al Jefferson and acquiring former number 2 overall pick Michael Beasley, and they will draft Syracuse wing Wesley Johnson 4th overall in the draft. Although Ricky Rubio was still not ready to join the team and decided to stay overseas for another season, the Timberwolves were looking forward to an improved season. The start of this season will begin to show the potential that they hoped for. Steph Curry continues to improve and run the show, but this season will be the breakout of Kevin Love. With the offense running through him, he would improve his scoring average 6 points and also average 15 rebounds per game, earning him an all-star spot and eventually the Most Improved Player award. There was also great chemistry beginning to develop between Love and Curry. Curry improved his scoring up to 18 points a game, along with 7 assists per game, and was clearly showing that he was capable of becoming an all-star. The team would improve to a 33-49 record, although some of the ankle injuries he suffered throughout the season would be troublesome enough to require surgery at the end of the season. The Dallas Mavericks would upset the Miami Heat to win their first championship. While Steph Curry will have successful surgery and prepare to be ready for the upcoming season, the Timberwolves will finally be able to bring prize point guard Ricky Rubio to the team from overseas. They would win a number 1 overall pick in the draft and select Arizona forward Derek Williams. The league would have to endure a lockout, which delayed the start of the season to December, which only gave Curry more time to be ready. Minnesota's hopes of building off the momentum from last season would take a step backwards. Kevin Love publicly lobbied for an extension, which Minnesota reluctantly gave him eventually in January. Not only would Steph Curry struggle somewhat with no longer running point, he would begin to suffer more ankle injuries throughout the season. which would limit him to 26 out of the 62 games played this season. His numbers would dip down to 14 points a game and 5 assists per game before being shut down and needed another ankle surgery. And to top it off, Ricky Rubio tore his ACL towards the end of the season as well. Minnesota will finish the season 26-40 and go into the offseason with more questions than answers. The Miami Heat will beat the Oklahoma City Thunder to win their first NBA championship. Steph Curry will have yet another ankle surgery, and doubts were starting to creep in on whether he could have a sustainable long-term career. And with Curry up for an extension soon, Minnesota started to begin that he might not be in their long-term plans. With Ricky Rubio expected to recover from his ACL injury and return in December, Stephen Curry will be kept at the two-guard position and prove he can stay healthy. They will start this season off without Kevin Love, who broke his hand in the preseason, although he will return in November. This would allow Steph Curry to break out as a scorer, taking all the shots he wanted from wherever, whenever. Even though Ricky Rubio returned in December as planned, Curry continued to lead the team in scoring and, more importantly, remained healthy. Minnesota was starting to make noise in the West until Kevin Love would break his hand again in January and miss the rest of the season. But with Curry playing well, an extension with Minnesota was looking like a real possibility until Curry tweaked his ankle again. He would bounce back after missing a few games, but a few weeks later, he would twist his ankle again. Minnesota, already on the fence with Curry, was now shook and was completely convinced that this was a chronic issue. They quickly began to shop him around and found that other teams were just as concerned. But at the deadline, a willing trade partner was found, as Minnesota would trade Steph Curry to the Boston Celtics for Rajon Rondo and Avery Bradley. Even though this trade took everyone by surprise, Steph was excited about coming to a playoff team playing with veterans and champions Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. Finishing the season with the Celtics, Curry mostly deferred, but his energy and presence would rejuvenate a group with the championship window closing. Curry would average 20 points a game and 8 assists per game overall. The Celtics would finish strong with a 45-37 record, ending up as the 5th seed in the East. In his first playoff series against the Brooklyn Nets in the first round, Curry will perform well, proving to be an integral part of knocking off the Nets quickly in 5 games. But in the next round, the Celtics would face the Miami Heat. The championship window would officially close as the Celtics are crushed in 5 games. The Miami Heat would beat the San Antonio Spurs to win back-to-back championships. Celtics GM Danny Ainge did not hesitate on giving Steph Curry a max 4-year extension, as well as letting him know that the team would rebuild around him. There was consideration of giving it another run with the current group until Boston received an offer it just couldn't refuse from the Brooklyn Nets. They would give the Celtics years of future unprotected draft picks in exchange for Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry. Coach Doc Rivers, not one to rebuild, will resign as head coach to take over the same position with the LA Clippers. The Celtics will hire Brad Stevens as the new head coach, formerly of Butler University. The rebuild around Curry was in full effect. With an extension secured and an organization with full confidence in him, Curry took his game to the next level. Curry orchestrated the show and shot with supreme accuracy, essentially from anywhere on the court. Dazzling handles and quickness, Steph Curry was now a household name. But surrounded with no significant veterans and temporary pieces, as well as being reined in by Brad Stevens' structured system, the team overall will understandably struggle to get wins. Curry, however, earned his first All-Star selection and finished the season averaging 24 points a game and 9 assists per game, and carried the Celtics to a 42-40 record, earning the 8th seed in a weakened Eastern Conference. Their opponent would be the 1 seed Indiana Pacers, a more complete, battle-tested contender in the East. The Celtics put up a solid effort, but would ultimately lose in 5 games. The San Antonio Spurs will beat the Miami Heat in a finals rematch, winning their 5th title. The Celtics will start to maneuver pieces and sign free agents they felt would fit the rebuild. Brad Stevens also would begin to realize he had a special player in Curry and adjusted to loosening the structure of the system to allow Curry to run and shoot from anywhere as he needed to. This season, Steph Curry will break out as a superstar. From the ability to break down defenders, to get into the lane, to being able to hit threes literally from anywhere on the court. Even his tireless ability to move without the ball to get open threes caused defenses to be frustrated. Even though the rest of the roster was still a work in progress, Steph's presence would allow others to hit shots and play above their abilities. Boston would lead the league in scoring, and Steph would lead the league in scoring as well, averaging 29 points a game along with 9 assists per game. Curry would lead Boston to a 54-28 record, good for second in the East, and will finish second in the MVP voting to LeBron James. Boston had quickly rebuilt a contender with Curry leading the way. After cruising through the first round, they would meet LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers in the next round. Despite having home court advantage, Cleveland would quickly take it away with a Game 1 loss. Boston would even up the series, but heading back to Cleveland, LeBron James would overmatch anyone in his way, losing Games 3 and 4. Curry will shoot the lights out and will Boston to a Game 5 win at home, but will run out of steam in Game 6, falling short and losing the series. Cleveland will go on to the finals to meet the Los Angeles Clippers, led by former head coach Doc Rivers. The Cavaliers will come into this series severely undermanned, with LeBron James missing All-Stars Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love to injuries. And despite the efforts, they would just be no match for Lob City, as the Clippers would dismantle Cleveland in 5 games, winning their first championship in franchise history. Boston will continue to try to improve the roster around Curry, bolstering the front line and adding toughness, but they knew the best was yet to come. Armed with future draft picks and cap space, it would only be a matter of time before Boston was ready to truly compete for a title. This season would be more of the same. Steph Curry continued to play at an MVP level, running the show night in and night out and baffling defenses while doing so. Curry would lead the league in scoring once again, averaging 32 points a game and 7 assists per game. The Boston Celtics would finish 3rd in the Eastern Conference with a 55-27 record, but will fall short of an MVP again, this time to Kawhi Leonard. The supporting cast continued to improve alongside Curry, but would they have enough to get past LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers? Unfortunately, Steph Curry would injure his MCL in Game 1 of their first round series with the Charlotte Hornets. This would keep him out at least up to the conference finals. Boston had enough to get past Charlotte, but it would be a lot tougher going up against the Toronto Raptors in the second round. With no Steph Curry, Boston gave it all they had, but would end up falling in 6 tough games. Cleveland would get back to the finals to take on Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. This time with the full roster, Cleveland was able to come back down 3-1 to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder and win their first title in franchise history. This summer, Boston was ready to start the process of turning the team from a playoff contender to a real championship contender. They acquired the 3rd overall pick and would draft swingman Jaylen Brown, then signed free agent all-star big man Al Horford, whom they felt his all-around skills and high basketball IQ would mesh perfectly with Steph Curry and their system. Boston would start to take over the East as Steph Curry started to have more help and depth around him. Curry continued to play at an elite level, with defenses still not having much answer for their offense. Curry would average 27 points a game with 10 assists per game, and after leading Boston to a 61-21 record, he would finally earn league MVP. Boston had supreme confidence going into the playoffs that they finally had enough to reach the finals. Everything would go as planned. They would get through the first 2 rounds and earn a rematch with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals, with home court once again. Curry and the Celtics would come out firing and take Game 1, but the Cavs answered in Game 2. Boston would make a major statement on the road in a Game 3 rout, but Cleveland answered back in Game 4. Boston would have a major letdown, allowing themselves to lose Game 5, but survived Game 6 to force a Game 7. Unfortunately, LeBron James would dominate and neutralize Steph Curry, and Boston would lose yet another series at home. Cleveland would go back to the finals yet again to set up a rematch with the Oklahoma City Thunder. This time, OKC would have enough to beat Cleveland in 6 games to win their first title in franchise history. Despite the disappointment of falling just short of the finals, the goal for the Celtics was to keep the momentum going. Steph Curry was given a 5-year Supermax extension, keeping him in Boston for the remainder of his prime. Boston would win the first overall pick in the draft, still reaping the benefits of the Brooklyn Nets trade a few years ago. Although they traded it to the Philadelphia 76ers for the 3rd overall pick, they used it to draft Duke forward Jason Tatum. Then in free agency, Boston would sign all-star wing Gordon Hayward, Coach Brad Stevens' former star player at Butler, to a max contract. There was no doubt the Celtics were the clear favorites to be the team to reach the finals from the East. But injuries will be the story of this season. Right out the gate, the first game of the season, Gordon Hayward would go down with a broken ankle, missing the rest of the season. Boston had enough depth to go on playing okay, but then Steph Curry would miss a few weeks in December with an ankle injury. With young talent still trying to develop around changing rotations, the Celtics started off slower than they expected. But once Curry returned, he still played at an MVP level, averaging 26 points a game and 9 assists per game, and was surrounded with enough young talented players and veterans to keep Boston among the top in the East as expected. As the playoffs got close, the Celtics would suffer a blow. Steph Curry would injure his MCL in March, which was bad enough to keep him out at least through the first round. Boston would finish the season 55-27 and earn the 2nd seed in the East. They figured they would be able to survive until Steph was ready to return and continue their road to the finals. However, their first round opponent would be the Milwaukee Bucks, featuring rising superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak. The Celtics would find themselves shocked to drop the first 2 games at home, then get crushed in Game 3. Down 3-0, they knew the odds were heavily stacked against them, but the young Celtics without Curry played with nothing to lose, and they would climb back in the series to win the next 2 games. But the Celtics would run out of gas. Giannis would dominate and crush the Celtics in Game 6, ending Boston's season in complete disappointment. This would allow LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers to gain a trilogy with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the finals. Both with reinforced squads, this will be a classic 7-game finals, which will see Oklahoma City edge out Cleveland to win back-to-back championships. Even though the Celtics took a big step back, they had all the pieces in place to compete for a championship. The summer would just focus on health and recovery for the veterans and building off the experience gained by the young players. Coach Brad Stevens' job this season would present more challenges, as he would have to figure out how to give enough minutes to a roster full of talent. A growing injury would sideline Steph Curry throughout November, but that would just give the rest of the roster more time to step up. Boston still started out as they expected. Not many teams would be able to overcome a roster with that much depth night in and night out. Once Steph Curry returned, he of course would seamlessly continue leading the charge, averaging 25 points a game and 9 assists per game. Boston would finish the season 57-23 and earn a 3rd seed in the East. Steph Curry felt healthy Jason Tatum was blossoming into a true second option. Brown and Hayward were reliable scorers and defenders. Al Horford still anchored the middle, and the Morris twins brought extra skill and toughness. This postseason, the Celtics will finally put it all together, crushing the Brooklyn Nets in the first round, defeating the Toronto Raptors in the second round, and avenged last year's upset beating the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics had finally reached the big stage, and their opponent in the finals would be the Los Angeles Lakers, featuring familiar foe LeBron James and his super team that had dominated the West all season long. The Lakers' length, size, versatility, and championship experience completely overwhelmed the Celtics in the first two games. Steph Curry was able to break loose a bit at home, shooting the lights out to get past the Lakers in Game 3, but the Lakers' adjustments shut down any momentum in Game 4. The Celtics' complete team effort allowed Boston to sneak out Game 5, but the Lakers proved that they were just a superior team of the league, closing the Celtics out in 6 games. Steph Curry will have to watch LeBron James become champion once again. All right, that wraps up the Steph Curry alternate journey up to this point. It's likely that going into the summer, the Celtics feel like they can run it back, but other teams, transactions, and circumstances may say otherwise. Again, if you like this, hit like. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. And there may be a continuation on how the 1920 season played out in this planet. Anyways, appreciate y'all watching. Look out for more videos and see y'all soon.